Golden State Media Concepts social media podcast. Time to hashtag everything. We talk about all the fun, crazy stories on social media. From Instagram to Facebook, Twitter to Tumblr, or probably even Friendster. Join us each week as we explore the quirky side of social media. It's the Golden State Media Concepts social media podcast.
It's simple, such a sad song. The one that we rely on to get us.
Hello, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of the GSMC Social Media News Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Shamaria Jackson, and in today's episode, the quarantine is putting a strain on a lot of people's mental health, and we're going to kind of dive into the actions that some social media handles have decided to do. Summer tours are being halted, maybe extended because of the coronavirus, but Ticketmaster has had a different regulation on their refund policy, and we're going to take a look on what that new return policy may be, and then we're also going to look at the effects that a lot of people may be having to go through because of this new refund policy. And then we're going to take a look into all of our celebrity gossip, ranging from Offset to Aisha Curry, coming up. Stay tuned. All right, so we are going to dive in to the Los Angeles mayor, Eric Garcetti, and he is saying that it's going to be difficult to see large gatherings like concerts or sporting events resuming in the city before 2021. And in my personal opinion, I do have to agree with that. The actions of social distancing yourself and being aware of everything around you has become so normal in just a month that people are deciding, for themselves to, become more aware of the people that is surrounding them. I also believe that this is going to, after all of this is over, this is going to take a lot of getting used to. It's going to take people getting used to going back to movie theaters, sitting down at a restaurant, or just going to shops such as Mac and Sephora, retail stores such as Forever 21, places that we know for a fact is constantly and is always filled with different people. Wondering if your friends or your loved ones may have something that could put your life at risk. It's just going to become something that we are going to have to kind of think about and wonder about. And hopefully, as the year progresses and this virus becomes something for the history books, as time progresses, I hope that we can get back to where we once were, which is, being there for one another, having that intimate social talking instead of social distancing, and, being able to go back to where we once were. Is it going to take time? Yes. Do I feel that we'll become 100% by the time 2021 happens? I mean, hopefully so. Because, like I stated again, this has become something that is normal, social distancing yourselves, and a lot of things, may change, even movie theaters. I also have to look at shopping, there's always been a difference between physically going to the mall and trying on clothes and understanding how each jean can fit a body differently, rather than ordering online. Whereas you get it, you try it on, you find out these jeans do not fit you, even though it's the same size as you, some jeans just do not fit the same. So now you have to go through the struggle of getting a box, finding the time to go and send the box to your post office or to UPS. And then you're going to have to deal with hoping and praying that this package will reach this company in time so that you can get your refunded money or another choice of jean. And finally, with all of these return policies, a lot of people have been so adamant about telling their customers, hey, we have extended the refund policy. This is the new return policy. Ticketmaster is under fire because they have decided to quietly change their refund policy. So here is the news on that. With all of the tours being canceled, especially in the wake of the coronavirus pandemic, there is a distinction with Ticketmaster that lies whether a show has been flat out canceled or postponed for a later date. Canceled concerts are refunded at the point of purchase, while a huge portion of concerts postponed and they're waiting for a later date. So the Lake Nation president, he echoed a recent projection that estimated by the fall of 2021, that is the earliest that major shows will start hitting the stage again. Okay? So if you purchased your ticket for a random concert for the fall of 2020, as we can all see, this pandemic is not easing up anytime soon. So you may have to, the date may be postponed, so you would not be able to go to your desired concert time. If you're confused, I'm going to read this statement made by Lake Nation, and then I'll dive more into my opinion. So hold that thought right there, okay? Just hold that thought. If you purchased a ticket for any show and it was postponed, you may not be able to attend that show until the next year. So if you purchased something for May 1st, 2020, 9 times out of 10, these guys have already postponed the date. So instead of going to your May concert, you're going to your May concert the following year, aka May 1st, 2021. And speaking of May 1st, fans who bought tickets for shows that has been postponed will be receiving Ticketmaster's new concert dates and the options to initiate a refund, including the ticket price and all of the fees. Fans will have 30 days to request a refund. Otherwise, tickets will be good for unscheduled shows. For canceled shows, they can choose to receive up to 150% of their ticket value as concert cash. That basically means if you've ever worked in retail, when they tell you, hey, you've already reached the limit of you not being able to receive your full refund, instead, I'm going to give you store credit. So in this case, concert cash is kind of the same equivalent of store credit, aka a gift card. So what that basically means is if you have decided to get a refund, if you have decided, hey, I do not want to wait until May 1st, I paid a certain amount of money for this ticket and I want my money back. Instead, what they're offering is a concert cash. If you have decided, I don't want to go to the show anymore, I just want my money, from what I have read, they're able to do it, but it's such a big hassle that they would rather just give it to you in concert cash, which basically means, hey, I understand you do not want to go to your said concert. However, we're unable to do it. So instead, here is concert cash that you may use for another concert going forward in the future. A lot of the money goes to the venue and a lot of money go towards the said artist, which again, that's a lot of business going on there. That's a lot of talking that I do not have enough time for in this podcast. Okay. Otherwise we would break it down, bit by bit, but we don't have time for that. Okay. So keep that in mind. Do I understand the frustration that a lot of people are going to have? Yes, especially in this epidemic. Maybe they were going to work every day and they had that money for that said concert. And now that they are not working, that money for that said concert could be used toward a bill or food or anything that can help them through this pandemic. After the break, all of our social media handles are doing what they can to ensure that everyone is doing everything that they can to stay safe in this pandemic. And most of it is for our mental health and how they are changing the game to help us stay sane in this situation. Coming up right after the break.
Do you want to be healthier, yet you just don't know what to do? All these shows telling you this and that, but nothing seems to work. Well, listen close. Golden State Media Concepts has got something great for you. The Health and Wellness Podcast dedicated to workout trends, healthy eating habits, diet, and everything about healthy living. Join us in our banters as we help you not just live life to the fullest, but live it to the healthiest.
Welcome back. So before the break, we were talking about the Los Angeles' mayor basically saying that it's going to be very difficult to see large gatherings like concerts or sporting events resuming in the city before 2021. And I went on to agree, basically saying that us as a society social distancing ourselves from near about everything after this pandemic is over. I feel like this has become something that is so subconscious that we don't even mean to do it, which is therefore going to see kind of a decline in not only movie theaters, but in sit-down restaurants. And even how we handle, how our kids are going to go on in the future. Like, how is school going to resume? How are we going to not find ourselves becoming hyper aware of everything that's going on around us? And how are we going to treat, different people going on in the future as well? And I guess become anxious about knowing if that person has coronavirus or not, or something that may have an effect on your immune system. But again, that is just one thing we talked about. We also talked about Ticketmaster and how they quietly changed their refund policy to where instead of getting cash, you may get cash, but it'll be very difficult. Instead, they're offering concert cash, which is kind of equivalent to store credit. So before I get into this next topic, I saw a whole bunch of things about how people are like, they went into 2020 with an open mind and now they're in 2020 and they would rather go back to 2019 than deal with this. And let me tell you, I have never felt that comment on a deep level, because let me tell you guys, my 2019 was something that I would never want to experience ever. So for me to say I would rather go back to 2019 than deal with the rest of 2020, I feel that. I feel that on a deep, deep level. But going forward into 2020, there cannot be this much chaos without something good that is about to happen. And me just trying to be a positive person, a realist, positive person, there has to be some kind of good that is going to come out of us being in quarantine. But again, I'm going to talk about that later on. What I wanted to talk about right now is some social media platforms that has decided to really step up their game and look at their audience. We're going to be talking about Snapchat. We're going to be talking about Netflix, and we're also going to be talking about Instagram. But for right now, I wanted to talk about Facebook and how they are launching quiet mode. So with the new normal in place, which is what I just talked about, us social distancing ourselves and basically becoming hyper aware of our surroundings, setting boundaries for how we're spending our time online can be helpful. Facebook's new quiet mode might just be what you're looking for to lead a healthy work/life balance, which a lot of us can raise our hands and say that we too have done this. When we were going to work and going places, it's so easy to, put yourself in a routine and say, oh man, I totally forgot. I have to go to work. I have to do this. I have to make sure that my days are correlating. However, with us being in quarantine, us being on our phones or on social media has become something that is so normal because there's really nothing for us to do. So I feel like Facebook adding in quiet mode is setting something in our brains to say, hey, you've been on this for a little too long. Get up, go do something. This is your quiet mode time. So here is how Facebook is explaining it. They stated, quote, "We've added quiet mode, which mutes most push notifications. And if you try to open Facebook while in quiet mode, you will be reminded that you set this time aside to limit your time in the app." To press pause on a screen, you can either switch on quiet mode straight away or schedule it for later. So here is my opinion about quiet mode. And, basically, I feel like all apps need to have a quiet mode. And the reason I believe that is because it reminds people to wind down without screens. A lot of people don't know that a blue light actually, it reacts to the blue screen, the blue light, basically like a sensory to your brain stating that this is sunlight or something like that. And it just keeps your brain up, basically. So while people are on this screen subconsciously, we're straining our eyes and we're taking in a lot of this blue light. And again, when we are trying to go to sleep, we are actually straining ourselves to go to sleep because the light becomes a distraction, or whatever you're looking at on your social media is becoming a distraction. So that is not only messing up in turn your sleep schedule, but it's also in some way going to mess up your work schedule because it's kind of like a ripple effect kind of thing. So while you're in quarantine, don't look at it as you're on lockdown. Look at it as a time to where you can better your routine. You can say, hey, I'm going to bed at this time. I'm going to bed at 10 o'clock. So let me put up all of my notifications that this is my quiet mode. Okay. Let me go to all of my social medias and state that this is my quiet mode. I don't want to get no notifications, any of that. So by the time you wake up, let's say 6, 7, and you want to get on your phone, your notifications are already there and you can go from there. But speaking of, us wanting our social media pages to do the same thing, YouTube, instead of them having a quiet mode, they're doing something else, which is lowering your streaming quality. So if you've ever been on YouTube all day and you notice that the quality on your said video is going down, that is because YouTube's kind of subconsciously trying to remind you that, hey, you need to look and see how long you've been on this app and how long you have been streaming something. So users, with this being said, while staying at home has a lot of us streaming videos and Netflix at all hours of the day. After Netflix, YouTube following suits to stream videos in standard quality to all regions to lessen network loads. So basically what that means is they lower the streaming to help everyone else in the world still get to stream the same video. It's something that I can't really explain in one sitting of this podcast. So with that being said, I'm not going to really dive in deep on that situation, but understand that users still have the option to watch videos on high definition if they want to, but will have to do so by choosing the HD option, as videos will intentionally load in SD only. So what that means, again, is if you've been watching YouTube all day and you suddenly notice that the quality has just went to trash, that is because they're subconsciously telling you, hey, you've been on YouTube watching HD videos all day. You've been watching from 9 a.m. It's now 8 p.m. What are you doing with your life? So this is not the end of the world, people, just a small price we must pay in order to ease the burden on internet infrastructure. Again, you can choose to change your settings. It's just going to become a little annoying. But that, again, is the price that we must pay. And coming up after the break, we are going to talk about Snapchat and how they have added something to help ease our mental stress, as well as Instagram and Netflix also coming in to help younger people understand where they are mentally as well. All of that is coming up right after this break. Stay tuned. Trust me, you do not want to miss a thing.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back. So before the break, we were talking about Facebook and how they have launched a new quiet mode to ensure that, everyone is getting the adequate amount of sleep that they can and that they're not straining their eyes and, finding a way to balance their work and regular life while we are in quarantine. And then we also talked about YouTube and how they are lowering their quality if people have been on YouTube for a long time. So basically, they're monitoring your streams. And if they've noticed that you've been on your stream for a very long time, they're going to lower the settings so that it's not a big strain on your internet. So now I'm going to talk to you guys about Snapchat and also Instagram/Netflix and how they are doing their part to help us deal with what's going on mentally. So first, I wanted to talk about Snapchat and how they are launching a new mental health resource center. So with anxiety and stress on the rise as the pandemic situation continues to intensify, Snapchat has decided to launch the quote, "Here for You," a new mental health resource center to help those experiencing mental health or emotional crisis. So this feature will provide people with relevant updates from the World Health Organization, the CDC, Crisis Text Line, NHS, and other partners to help people cope with anxiety and stress. Stress Misfits Media wrote on Twitter, quote, "At Snapchat has announced that it's bringing forward its new Here For You mental health resource center in light of these unprecedented times," end quote. So, here is my opinion on Snapchat launching a new mental health resource center. I personally really like it. As someone who does suffer from anxiety, anxiety is a real life thing, and sometimes people don't understand it, but doing something as simple as walking and getting out of the house can help with your anxiety. But with everything going on to where people again are just putting an overwhelming amount of stress on COVID-19 and, doing everything that they can to make sure people are being quarantined and doing their part in social distancing, it has just taken a strain on a lot of people mentally, especially teens. I remember being a teen and, trying to figure out life. And to be honest with you guys, I'm in my 20s and I'm still trying to figure out life. Like, being in this situation is not funny. It's not fun. It's not like it has its days of being great and being positive and just finding ways to go from there. But sometimes, especially if your anxiety is just acting up, it's really hard to bounce back from there, especially if you cannot talk to anyone. So I find that it's great that Snapchat again has looked at their audience, has looked at their demographics and said, hey, teenagers are the most likely to suffer in this crisis. Let me find some ways to not only reach out to teenagers, but reach out to a younger adult audience. So I feel like they're using their platform for good. And, speaking of using their platform for good, another very popular social media handle has offered mental health as well. And that is Instagram and Netflix. They are both actually, Instagram and Netflix have partnered on Wanna Talk About It. It's a live series where every week one star talks with a mental health expert about self-care during a global pandemic. And what I like about it, from what I've read about it, what I like about it is that it has celebrities or people around the same age as their demographics. So you have someone who is a teenager. You have someone who is a woman, a young lady. You have people coming in to ask the questions and give you advice on how to take care of yourself, what they consider self-care to help you, again, progress during this pandemic. and adjusting to, like I stated earlier, something that is new and restricting on social contact. This, again, like I stated before, has taken a toll on the mental health of young people, which is not even just teenagers, but it's young adults as well. Again, my opinions about Netflix and Instagram doing what they can to help their demographics and to help everyone that they have come in contact with. I really like it. I feel like it's going to help on a lot of solutions. It's going to help people look up new ways to help themselves. So not only are they getting through the pandemic, but they're also going to take something that is useful for them for the rest of their lives. For instance, before even quarantining, I always meditated, but having that breathing exercise and I guess finding out if you're having an anxiety attack, which I've had before, if they don't know that they're having an anxiety attack, and just finding ways to help them, understand, everything is going to be okay, and kind of taking that mental obstacle down. Yeah. I also believe that during this time, it's not only anxiety about being stuck in the house, it's anxiety of going out and catching this virus, and it's also not being able to have your support system. So not being able to be around those that want to see you progress and don't like to see you in your anxious predicament. That makes sense. But right now, there's some news about Netflix that may leave some listeners scratching their heads. And I understand that they have just done some good, but Netflix right now is currently under fire. And we're going to find out why that is after this short break. Don't change that dial. It's coming up.
Want to find out what movies to go see? Then check out the GSMC Movie Podcast. It's your ticket to the latest movies, whether it's a new blockbuster event, romantic, comedy, or action flick. This show has got it all covered. They talk some what to go see now, don't bother, what's hot on Netflix, and everything in between. That's gsmcpodcast.com/movie-podcast. When it's all about the movies, it has to be this new show. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back. So before the break, we were talking about how Netflix and Instagram have done something so good by, reaching out to people who may be experiencing a lot of mental stress that is going on, and how they have basically looked at their demographics, and now they're having people who are the same age as them, a celebrity audience who is possibly the same age as them, go on live with a mental expert and just give out self-care tips to help those listeners progress into the normal of quarantining. And then we've also talked about Snapchat and how they have created a mental resource center to help those who suffer from anxiety, just to have a safe place for them to go and talk. right now, I wanted to get into Netflix. Remember, before the break, we were already talking about Netflix and how this subject that I'm about to talk about is going to possibly leave you scratching your head. I know, because it had me scratching my head a little bit. So, here is why Netflix is under fire. It is centered around a documentary about Cyntoia Brown. If you guys have no idea who Cyntoia Brown is, she is a young lady. She was a young lady who was convicted of the murder and robbery of Johnny Michael Allen. Cyntoia at the time was 16 years old, and she claimed that Johnny, who was 43 years old at the time, paid her $150 to have sex with him, and she also stated that she feared for her life during this encounter, which led her to shoot him. Okay, so who is Cyntoia Brown? Cyntoia Brown is actually known now as Cyntoia Brown Long. She is 32 years old now, but at the time of her conviction, she was only 16 years old. She was convicted of the murder and robbery of Johnny Michael Allen. So this happened when she was 16 years old again. She claimed that Johnny, who was 43 years old at the time, paid her $150 to have sex with him, and she also stated that she feared for her life during their encounter, which led her to shoot him. So this is where the mix-up kind of is. In some stories that I've read, she shot him in the back of the head. However, in other stories that I've read, she shot him on the bed. So that's where things are getting kind of mixed up. What I don't have mixed up is the fact that she is 16 years old and that this girl was a victim of teen sex trafficking, which is a huge thing. Here's some more backstory about her situation. The night that changed her life was when she shot Johnny, obviously. She shot him because, again, she feared for her life. And that was with all of the encounters that they've ever had. So essentially, this 43-year-old man wanted to have sex with a 16-year-old. And because she feared for her life, that should go to show you that he was being physical with her. He was hurting her, aka abusing her. So she stated in one article that she thought he was reaching for his gun. After she shot him, Cyntoia, at just the age of 16 years old, was serving a life sentence. So she was sentenced to life in prison. I like this story because she ended up getting out and she was granted clemency, okay, which is essentially the reason as to why she had the chance to leave. However, I don't like this story because it tells you the reality of a lot of teen sex trafficking victims and a lot of inmates in prison right now as we speak. And those guys are not the lucky ones. So essentially, Cyntoia, her childhood was just never right. I believe her mom was a victim of drugs, which led to a lot of neglect. And I believe she was either put up for adoption or she was in the system of foster care. So either way it goes, she had bad people around her leading her in a bad direction, which again led her into prostitution, which led her into sex trafficking. Okay, as a teenager, a 16-year-old. And a lot of us cannot wrap our brains around a situation like this. But the sad truth is that a lot of victims, a lot of women are victims of her same predicament. They're just not as lucky. Cyntoia became someone who the system has kind of failed. They don't really count this man, this 43-year-old man who wanted to have sex with this minor. And many fail to realize that this man was, again, in fact, abusing her. But I personally feel like the only reason she was granted clemency was because she caught the attention of many celebrities, such as Rihanna, Kim Kardashian West, and LeBron James. People who helped put the fire under these people to help them look deeper into her case and understand that this situation is not just black and white. So how does this tie in with Netflix? Well, Centoya said that she had no involvement with the release of the documentary that is about her. The documentary that Netflix is about to send out is Murder to Mercy, the Centoya Brown Story, which is an unauthorized documentary. Centoya wrote on Instagram, quote, "While I was incarcerated, a producer who had old footage of me made a deal with Netflix for an unauthorized documentary. My husband and I were surprised, as everyone else, when we first heard the news because we did not participate in any way. And while I pray that this film highlights wrongs with our justice system, I had nothing to do with this documentary." Now, here are my feelings about everything. Do I feel like Centoya should have served some type of punishment for shooting this man? I hate to say it, but yes, I do. I feel like this young lady was, okay, so it sounds really strange on what I'm about to say, but she served 15 years in prison before she was ultimately granted clemency in 2019. Okay, so she just got out of prison, but during her time in prison, she was always active on how the justice system has let her down, about how her surroundings kind of influenced on what she was going through, and then her life story. I believe while also in prison, she got not only her high school degree, but I believe she got her bachelor's as well. And also while in prison, she also learned a bunch of things to help her in society as well. I hate to see something like this get blown up, but I also have to look at what Tyrese wrote on Instagram as well. He said, quote, "Sadly, there are 1 million prison inmate shows on TV, and I'm almost sure that none of them inmates whose faces are shown ever financially benefit from being seen or featured. Nor do they ever sign paperwork. This is sad, but this is what happens when you no longer own yourself. While incarcerated, you are owned by the state. They sign and profit from our backsides, and we just have to sit and deal with it. Inmates don't have rights. Those rights belong to the jail and the state." Centoya's story, to me, it tells you the reality of a lot of teen trafficking victims. Another thing is many have to wonder, will these inmates ever see this money? So we might see them on TV, but are they receiving any type of money in any kind of way? Nine times out of 10, they are not. And again, that is just a sad reality on what we have to deal with and what people have to go through. And coming up after the break, we have some more legal issues. This time it's involving 2 Chainz, YG, and Offset. Plus, Ayesha Curry is reportedly being sued. So last time on my podcast, we were talking all about entertainment drama and all of the drama that's going on. But I feel like in today's episode, we're going to be talking about a lot of lawful issues that's going on. It's okay. We're all going to be hitting that right after this. Stay tuned.
always on the go, but the day just won't be one without your Hollywood fix. Let Golden State Media Concepts Entertainment Podcast take care of that. Jordan and Keith is Entertainment Tonight meets Access Hollywood.
I'm Jordan. The guy laughing, that's Keith.
Yeah, I'm Keith.
An all-inclusive look of pop culture.
Welcome back. In the last segment, we were talking about Cyntoia Brown and how she basically was cut out on this unauthorized documentary on her and her life and how she basically ended up incarcerated. And we've also talked about a lot of victims who face the same reality that Cyntoia Brown has went through, which is being a part of the system and basically how it has failed them as young ladies and how they have been put on a documentary and they have not received any type of notification. They just wake up one day and they're on a documentary. But now I wanted to change up everything and talk about Ayesha Curry. Who is Ayesha Curry? If you guys do not know who Ayesha Curry is, she is the wife of Steph Curry, and he is a very much well-known basketball player. Ayesha Curry has been on the scene before. She has been in some TV shows. She's mostly known, like I said, as being Steph Curry's wife, but she's also known on the Cooking Network. She can cook, okay? I am not going to give her that. I'm not going to knock her for that. She can cook. She has also helped me get a lot of recipes, okay? But Ayesha Curry is reportedly being sued by a celebrity branding company that states that they have helped launch her cooking career. The company is called Flutie Entertainment, which is operated by Robert Flutie. He filed the lawsuit against Ayesha Curry this past Wednesday, April 15th. In this complaint obtained by Blast, Flutie Entertainment alleges that they assisted in building Ayesha's personal brand into the well-known public figure she is today. Robert Flutie also reported, adding, he met Ayesha back in 2014 when she had a cooking blog called Little Lights of Mine, which was her only project at that time. Ayesha signed to Robert's company in 2015 in hopes of building a separate brand apart from Steph Curry and his name. Flutie Entertainment reportedly added to the claim that they assisted Ayesha in her dreams of becoming a celebrity chef in comparison to a current and modern day version of Martha Stewart or Rachel Ray. The company added in the claim that they came up with the proposal for Ayesha to release cookbooks, TV shows, and a brand of cooking products. Ayesha is alleged to have fired Flutie Entertainment out of the blue in May of 2019. Robert Flutie claims he was not aware of any issues between them before the severance of ties. The company alleges that Ayesha attempted to cut them out of profits and invest in various projects. Flutie Entertainment is suing Ayesha Curry for $10 million in damages, 50% in Yardie Girl, Ayesha's production company, and a percentage of the money she made from her cooking products and multiple business ventures. They believe they should be compensated for the deals they made during her contract between them. Ayesha's lawyer, Michael Bloster, released a statement after the lawsuit was filed. Okay, so here's my opinion about this whole drama regarding Ayesha Curry. Do I feel like there's a lot of information that we do not know in regards to why Ayesha Curry did in fact fire them. Were they not doing their job right? Were they beating around the bush? Were they stating that they were going to get her to another level when in fact they really didn't? It was possibly just Ayesha's management that got her to where they had to get her. We all don't know that because we don't have all of the details. However, I feel like a lot of her popularity was pushed by her husband. She might have claimed, that she wanted to have a different face, aside from her being Steph Curry's wife. But at the end of the day, people know her solely because she's Steph Curry's wife. She cannot step away from that. That's just going to be with her. Okay. I can understand again why Flutie Entertainment is possibly why they're suing her. For $10 million in damages. I think that's very steep. As far as 50% in Yardie Girl, 50% interest in Yardie Girl. Again, I think that's a steep as well. For Ayesha's production company, so they're suing her also for her production company and for a percentage of the money she made from her cooking products and multiple business ventures. I can understand why they are suing for, this part in particular. However, I feel like suing her for $10 million in damaging is steep, as well as suing her for 50% in Yardie Girl, 50% interest in Yardie Girl, and then her production company, I just feel is very steep. I feel like they're suing her and trying to make her an example. However, I do have to get on Ayesha Curry, and I also have to get on her lawyer at this time, because I feel like they read through her contract, but I feel like there was no one who really sat down and said, hey, this is not a good idea to quit at this moment. I understand you do not like this company, but just try to do everything you can to do what you can with this company until your contract runs out, and then you can go from there. Or I feel like they should have had a lawyer come in and change her contract, because obviously she wasn't happy with her contract. But again, that would have to have a very good system. And I feel like in this case, a lot of her lawyers dropped the ball. No pun included. But that's what I feel happened in this situation. Okay, so now I wanted to talk about more legal issues, this time regarding 2 Chainz, YG, and Offset and their new song, Proud. So it looks like 2 Chainz, YG, and Offset has claimed a victory after finding themselves at the center of a lawsuit over their track Proud, filed by a New York rapper who claimed the rappers stole his lyrics and title in his 2015 song. The plaintiff, Solomon Clanton, who goes by Slugga in New York, he's widely known in New York, he has voluntarily dismissed the case against all defendants, doing so without prejudice. Basically what that means is he could refile in the future, but for right now, he decided to dismiss the claims. So basically, Slugga went in. He claimed that these 3 men stole his song, stole his flow, stole everything from him. And then later on, he came in and said, hey, I would like to dismiss the charges. So after reading this on Hollywood Unlocked, I sat back and I thought about a lot of things. And, usually my conspiracy theories like to eat me up. But this time I felt like my conspiracy theories were right. Or I guess in this situation, this fact that occurred. I believe that YG, 2 Chainz, and Offset paid off this man. And I feel like he took the money and just went from there. Do I believe they took the song? No, but I also said in like another podcast where I feel like a lot of people take stuff, they just like write their names, change a few lyrics, and then they say, this is mine. So, do I feel like this might have happened? Yes. Do I feel like they might have paid this man off? Yes. So again, I just have to state, sometimes they might have changed the lyrics a little bit, they might have changed the beat a little bit, but a person knows their song. So, in this rapper's case, his truth is, they stole my song. In 2 Chainz, YG, and Offset's mind, they probably just changed a few beats around and this is their song. So again, they probably just paid this young man off to just go on about their business. But in truth, I feel like we will never know the true reason. We will never know the true truth because only 3 people know the truth. YG, 2 Chainz, and Offset, the New York rapper Slugga, and like the producers and everyone around them. And that is the end of today's segment. In the next segment, we are going to be talking about the Disney Family Sing-Along and how cute it was. All coming up after this short break. Stay tuned.
The GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible. Download the GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Hey guys, okay, so we are at the end of our subject. We have went through so much, and just in case you weren't here to listen to everything that was going on, I'm going to break down everything that we talked about before I begin my nice little cute little end segment. So first we talked about how Los Angeles' mayor kind of said that it's going to be hard for us to go back in society after this whole pandemic is over, and how us going shopping or going to the movie theater or sitting down in a sit-down restaurant is just not going to be the same, especially because we're so used to social distancing ourselves. And speaking of social distancing, we also talked about Snapchat and how they are launching a new mental health resource center to help those who are dealing with anxiety and stress. In the same sentence, we also talked about Instagram and Netflix and how they are doing their part in helping those experiencing mental health or emotional crises. We talked about Want to Talk About It, which is something that Instagram and Netflix are doing to releasing self-care series for young adults and teenagers, again, just experiencing so much mental and emotional crises that's going on while being in quarantine. And then speaking of Netflix, we also talked about how Netflix is under fire for releasing an unauthorized documentary on Centoya Brown, a young lady who spent half of her life in jail over the killing of a man who she believed was trying to kill her. We talked about how Facebook is launching a quiet mode and YouTube is beginning to lower people's quality, their streaming quality, if they notice that they have been streaming for a very long time. And finally, we talked about Ayesha Curry and her lawsuit situation in regards to Flutie Entertainment. And we also talked about the lawsuit that YG, 2 Chainz, and Offset had victory over, copyright situation in regards to a New York rapper named Slugga. So now I wanted to switch up things and talk about a really cute subject, and that was the Disney's Family Sing-Along. That happened Thursday, April 16th. And it came on ABC. It was so cute, you guys. I personally really love Disney. I've always been a fan of Disney, and just seeing different celebrities go on and just sing was so cute. My favorite person that sung for the night, and it was all over Twitter, was my girl Ariana Grande. She did her thing by singing I Won't Say I'm in Love from Hercules. One, because she was singing it so beautifully. Her makeup was bomb, and that shirt she had on, I really wanted. But aside from all of that, her overall performance was just so good. Even how she, her monitors were fixed onto the muses. If you know anything about Hercules, you already know the muses. Again, I loved it. I loved that whole thing. I think the one reunion that everyone was looking forward to was the High School Musical reunion. I forgot what grade I was in when High School Musical first came out, but it's always been like a little tradition. My favorite High School Musical, however, was High School Musical 3. Don't judge me. And then it was High School Musical and then High School Musical 2. But again, don't judge me. Anyway, we saw everyone do the reunion and it was so cute. And then Zac Efron was just kind of sitting there like, I'm here. I'm here. It was so funny, you guys. It was very awkward, but it was funny at the same time. With that being said, that is the end of today's podcast. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. And with that being said, this is the end of today's show. I would like to thank you for listening to the GSMC Social Media News Podcast, once again brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I would like to ask that you please remember to subscribe to the show and write a nice review, because that really helps us out. Also, be sure to follow us on all of our social media handles, such as Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I would also like to thank you guys and have a good night, a good day, and everything in between. Bye!
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Social Media Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.